Howdy everyone, how do? Hope you all are well and living your best life humanly possible that you are physically able to live. Hope you all are well. I already said that. I'm fucking up already. I'm terrible at greetings and shits. But let me not give you any more filter. Let me just start with my top 10 books of all time that I've ever read in human history. But keep in mind, I'm only 19, so I've probably only read like 25 books tops in my entire life in all of those 19 years. But let's start with some honorable mentions. And if you're a very busy person, if you are like a CEO or a Reddit moderator, a subreddit moderator, or anything like that, and you're just a very busy person and you can't watch this whole video, just go to the description. I'll have my whole list in there if you're on a time crunch. Anyway, let's start with some honorable mentions. Alright, so I took way too long filming my opinions on all the honorable mentions, so I'm just gonna tell you what they are. V for Vendetta by, I forget who, The Rum Diary by Hunter S. Thompson, Franny and Zoe by J.D. Salinger, The Outsiders by S.E. Hinton, and To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. Yeah, all pretty good books, but you know how honorable mentions go. They didn't make it into the top 10, so they fucking suck. So yeah, that is my last honorable mention. Let's get to the real shit. Number 10, the first dystopian society book on this list, Fahrenheit 451. So this guy is a fireman in a near distant future society, and the only purpose the firefighters have in the society is to burn things, not put out things, because every house has been fireproofed. It's virtually impossible for a fire to start without these firefighters, and what they do is burn books. Anyone in the society hoarding books of any kind, any of the books that have been outlawed, which is like all of them, are entitled to a flamethrower burning down their entire house and all their books. Another thing about this world is that everything happens insanely fast, from transportation to conversations to TV to literally everything about this world. Everything is super fast because people can't handle anything that challenges their attention span. And that's why they, over time, made books illegal, because some books don't make people happy. And instead of not reading that book, they just decided to make books altogether illegal, because that risk of someone being unhappy is too high. And everything happening super fast makes everyone happy. It's like happiness versus knowledge, in a way. That's like the motif of this book, and I really liked it. And you can read it in like a day, and it's a fucking classic. So yeah, number 10 is Fahrenheit 451. Number 9 is Foe by Ian Reid. You may have heard of Ian Reid. He made this book prior to this, his debut book, called I'm Thinking of Ending Things, and that film came out, the film adaptation came out on Netflix, I think like 3 days ago or something like that, and no words can describe that film because it was so mind-fucking. And that's what Ian Reid does whenever he writes anything. He can write a grocery list, and that grocery list would be so mind-fucking that you would be paralyzed just looking at it. But this is his second book, Foe, and it takes place on a farm, so it's going to be a slow burn. And that's not saying that it's a bad book. There's a lot of, movies, shows, whatever, that takes place on a farm, and they're all slow. But that doesn't mean they're bad. A lot of them are good. And this one, obviously, is very good because it's on my top 10 books of all time list. It's about this farming couple in their 30s, maybe, I'm guessing. And one day, this shady dude knocks on their door. He either works for the government or this corporation. I kind of forget what it is. Probably a combination of the two. But he invites them to this secret project. He doesn't tell the dude really what it is. He's just like, oh my god, it's so amazing, it's so great for humanity, you have to join it. And then the dude's wife is so excited about it, and that makes him, alright, I'll do it. And that's where it starts. That's where the book starts. And I'm not going to give anything else away because you have to read this. Number 9 is Foe. Number 8 is 1984. An amazing book about how authoritative government in any way isn't good. Government bad. That's what this book is. This guy, Winston, who's the protagonist, he's this slave of not only, physical labor, what he does for the government, but also his mind. He's unable to even think for himself. If he has any thought that isn't, oh, I fucking love the government, big brother, please fuck me, then he gets in trouble by the thought police. This book is very haunting, but it is a useful tool for us to use when the government does some shady shit. Like, I don't know, locking up a journalist for exposing war crimes. This is a good tool because we can shove this book in their face and say, hey, you're not Big Brother. Quit doing this. But it has been it has been abused. This book has been abused. Let's say a Twitch streamer gets banned off Twitch for saying the N-word. You'll have a bunch of people scream, this is literally 1984. How could you do this? But yeah, 1984, it has to be on my top 10. It's a phenomenal book. Number, what are we on? 8? 7? No, that was 8. This is 7. Number 7, Of Mice and Men. This is the first book that I ever cried at. It's about these two buddies, George and Lenny. One guy is very disabled, and the other guy he's not even like a really smart dude. He's just a good man, a good moral man. And they just travel around America in like the 30s during the Depression and just look for work, and often Lenny is messing up, makes the people that they're working for mad, and they have to flee and look for some more work. And it's fucking brutal, this book is, man. But these guys, they get so beaten up by the world. And despite everything that Lenny does, he can screw up 12 times a day, every single day. George, he doesn't leave Lenny because he knows that he leaves Lenny, then Lenny will probably end up dead somehow. Yeah, this book, it's a classic. If you want to cry, you should read this book. If you want to just have an excuse to have a really good cry, you haven't cried in a while, read this book. It's only 90 pages. You'll probably finish it in like a day if you got nothing going on. At number 6, we have Slaughterhouse-Five. This would have been, I should have put this at 5, just because, ooh woo, Slaughterhouse-Five at number 5. Oh well, it's at number 6. There's 5 better books than this, believe it or not. But Slaughterhouse-Five, a manic World War II story that's barely fiction, about this guy named Billy Pilgrim who survives the Dresden bombing, which was a bombing in a German town called Dresden, and it killed hundreds of thousands of people. And Billy Pilgrim, aka Kurt Vonnegut, the author, somehow survived it. And he tells his story of it and all the horrors that he's seen through it. But somehow he makes it a comedy. And this involves time-traveling aliens, where Kurt himself becomes this time-traveling alien, and where he keeps jumping back and forth between moments in his life. He could be playing ball in Little League to carrying a backpack in the middle of Germany, to being, I don't want to spoil it. I do not want to spoil it. Just read this book. It's like a Tarantino movie. It's the closest thing to a Tarantino movie in a book. That's a great way of putting it. I'm proud of myself. Number 5 is A Farewell to Arms by Ernest Hemingway. Hemingway knows how to write books. What made Hemingway such a great writer is before he would start writing, he would read up until where he lifted the pencil up last. And let's say if he's on page 225, he he's going to be reading for like hours and editing constantly. Every single day that this dude wrote, half of it would be editing. And he would do that so every single word, not only in this book, but every single book that he would write would not be wasted. Anyway, on with this book, Farewell to Arms. It is a World War I romance story of this guy who falls in love with a nurse, and a bunch of war shit happens, so he gets separated from the nurse. And then he gets captured, and more war shit happens, typical war shit happens. And then he finds the nurse again, and more stuff happens. And then life stuff happens. The war is over, he escapes the war, and then life stuff happens. And like I said, every single word is where it should be. And that's what makes this such a fine book. Alright, number 4 is Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas by Hunter S. Thompson. If you ever want to understand drugs without taking drugs, read Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. This dude basically, pretty much all based on a true story. Pretty much. Basically, Hunter was writing for the Rolling Stones, doing some work, and he was assigned to this race happening in Las Vegas. But he had a lawyer of his who was also involved in another story that was happening in Las Vegas. So him and his lawyer carpooled all the way from Los Angeles to Las Vegas. And Hunter and his lawyer brought with them to Las Vegas every single drug that was discovered by humans up to 1971. And there's not a sober word in this book. After all the events of this book transpired, Hunter locked himself into a motel to just write down everything that just happened. But yeah, this book is just a straight up stream of consciousness. Don't watch the movie until you've read this book. Yeah, it's a good movie, but this book is just way more real, way more realistic, way more it's like you're there. It's like you're there with Hunter while he's doing all of this, and you're just stressing out. You're just like, Hunter, why the fuck would you do this? Why would you let your lawyer get just number 4, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas. Number 3, we got the Autobiography of Malcolm X by Malcolm X. Malcolm X, I was misled about him during my upbringing in life. I heard a lot of fucking evil things about him. Like, oh, he was a real racist. He was one of the most evil people. He hated white people. He was so violent. He was blah, 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 blah. But that's not the case here. He lived one hell of a life, and he became one of the most ballsiest speakers in American history. Everyone hated Malcolm and still hates Malcolm to this day because he told the truth, because he had the balls to use his voice, which is the greatest gift that we all have. He used it and did not waste a second of it, and he got killed because of it. But yeah, if you're pretty uneducated and unaware on one of the most important Americans of all time, you should definitely read this book. It's the best nonfiction book of all time. Spoilers, the next 2 are more novels. Number 2 is The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. I was supposed to read this book in sophomore year of high school, and I didn't, because why would I? I was told to read something, and why would I do that? That's some phony shit right there, being told to read something and then reading it. Miss me with that phony shit, bro. But The Catcher in the Rye, it's about this loser named Holden Caulfield who hates everything, hates everyone, is depressed about everything, and just judges everything, and thinks it's cool to find things to hate. And sadly, I related with this dude a lot a couple years ago when I read it. And it takes place within like 2 days. Basically, he just, and this isn't spoiling it really, he just escapes from his school. He goes to New York, does some New York shit, and then he comes back home. And the things that happen within that hopefully because we don't know. He kind of ended it really abruptly. But hopefully that changes his life. Hopefully he, finds a different life philosophy. I know I did. And now number one. Take a wild guess. All the books. I hope you didn't read the description, because that probably fucking spoiled it. Damn it. I knew I shouldn't have done that. I knew I shouldn't have just gave away my whole video right there. Number one is The Great Gatsby, obviously. This book is about this guy named Jay Gatsby, and everyone just fawns over him. He is the man. He is the richest dude in the state, in the country, maybe. I don't know. He's just a really rich guy. Throws amazing parties, and everyone wants to be him. But everyone except for Jay Gatsby, because this dude is another loser. He is another loser protagonist. He's not the protagonist. Ignore that. But he's alone, and he has this obsession with this girl named Daisy, who he knew before he went off to the war and had a kiss with, and he obsesses with this girl, Daisy. So he throws these crazy parties hoping to attract Daisy, and he finally does, but it's not the same Daisy that he kissed before he went off to war. Also, Daisy's married, so he has to hang out with Daisy's husband a little bit, which is kind of annoying for him. But yeah, Gatsby, he's all of us in a way. He's all of what we could be. He's all of the worst possible scenario of us, where we just obsess over one thing and waste our entire life away, and not even, is that my, ew, that's my leg, ew. Where we waste our entire life away, and in Gatsby's case, his entire wealth, he didn't even enjoy his wealth for a second. He wasn't able to, because he was so obsessed with this idea of being happy. And fuck, that's so fucking relatable to a lot of us. Yeah, The Great Gatsby. If you haven't read this, dude, any book that you see in this video, I've said, if you haven't read this, you should read it. Obviously, I recommend it heavily. So that is my favorite books of all time. I hope you enjoyed this video. Comment below, not your top 10 list if you don't want to, but just maybe your favorite book ever off the top of your head. And I haven't read everything. I'm reading Les Miserables. I butchered the fuck out of that because I'm very American. I butchered that heavily, so ignore that. And yeah, I haven't read everything. I'm just trying to read the classics now. And maybe in a year from now, I'll remake this video. I just wanted to film this. I don't know. I just wanted to make something. I just want to make some kind of video, because I was tired of not doing that. And I didn't want to make Awesome Subway Surfers Gameplay 2 or another tier list video. I'm working on a based biography. I should probably rename it, because based is a word that's kind of dated, a little dated. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. Comment below some of your favorite books. And yeah, I love you all. I love you all a lot. I hope you all stay golden and phase the fuck up and just keep living your best life.